appreciate Caitlin's statement that DEQ is probably not going to move any faster. And she is right, but the only way that we can keep an agency moving is by keeping focus. So I think what we would just ask is, we'll sign the letter, and we would love to have some of Kyle's, time in helping move the discussion along. And then as we get into any of these other factors, I think we'll kind of discuss the nuance with DEQ and with Kyle, your attorney if needed, and, keep it moving along. But what we're looking for is something where we get into a hearing process, with some degree of calculated risk.
Yeah, and I will just echo, Connie, that what you guys are proposing is very simplistic by nature. This is not complicated. This is very standard practice. It's just understanding what might be the ramifications of that so that we don't go down the wrong path. So we'll get that input from DEQ, and that'll help move this in the right direction. So I did just follow up with Chris. I just followed up with Chris and Katie, and you were CC'd and Gordon as well. So
thank you very much. Thank
you.
To the district board, we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Kyle, could you include Bob Hansen?
Yeah, certainly.
With them, I'd like to have him involved. He was there before DEQ was there.
Sure.
Might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. He was there before DEQ was there, you're not that old worried about.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Thank you. Patience, you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. We'll keep it.
Thank you.
And if she sends me out, I'll even call the try to see if I don't get to get you a check and a signed thing.
Yeah, just get
That's
that.
good.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Courteously yet persistently pushing you.
Okay.
Well, I get it. Better umbrellas, the big umbrella.
Okay. Yeah, we understand.
They get the same.
It's frustrating to you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Hey Kyle, this is Bob here.
Yeah, hey Bob.
I'm just wondering, why are we going to DEQ with this?
So here's the ramifications, Bob. Right now, the short-term solution is if I was to look at this and say, hey, your current collection system is 4-inch, it doesn't meet DEQ's code for gravity sewer lines, you need to upgrade an 8-inch all the way to the lift station. I don't think the developer will. I mean, that doesn't work. That's an extremely costly solution. So the reality of this is getting DEQ's take on this and how they interpret that system functioning, and if there is improvements needed associated with this or not.
Wouldn't it only be the collection line, the 4-inch collection line is the issue? Because if we're going to change a collection line or a distribution line of water, as long as it's the same size, same function, we don't need approval, but in this case we'd be upsizing it. So wouldn't the only thing we'd need them for is to tell them we'd like to make an improvement on our system to upgrade the 4-inch line to an 8-inch line?
Yeah, but that's the last thing that developer is going to want to do. So we're working with the developer to see if there's a better solution that wouldn't require that. Because my interpretation is that would be required, and of course that isn't what the developer would want to hear, because that's an expensive. I think it's like a half mile of 8-inch trunk line to the lift station. I mean, that's $600,000, $700,000, $800,000.
Yeah, the only thing, you kind of raised a question in my mind when you mentioned the step system.
Yeah.
You handle this, but our system is definitely not a step system, so.
Well, and Bob, that's the exact reality of this is why I wanted to get DEQ's input on it, because it's some sort of a hybrid system where you're getting some function of gravity, some function of pressure, and I don't want to get to the finish line and DEQ go, well, why are you letting them connect to a 4-inch line? That doesn't meet DEQ code or IDAPA's rules.
Well, that was my whole point. That's why I was thinking we should say you have to put an 8-inch line, and consider later we have to have an 8-inch line there.
Yeah, and so the thought process is by making sure that this is vetted out and that we get DEQ's full direction from this, then we're all on the same page so that we don't spin in circles because the developer talked to DEQ and they're fine with the 4-inch, but we're requiring an 8-inch. It just makes things extremely messy.
Yeah, I think what Bob is saying is that although we're thinking, the developer's not going to want to make those costs or anything, but ultimately the district doesn't either, because it's functioning for us as it is right now, and then now going to DEQ is putting the district in a position of having to have the cost burden to accommodate the developer when we're essentially worrying about what the developer is going to be needing to do instead of the district.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, we can have another quick touch base. I'd like to just hear DEQ's take on this situation so that we have kind of a formal regulatory requirement direction.
Yeah, the one observation I'd have, Kyle, is I imagine there are multiple systems like that out there right now. And it's reasonable to think that DEQ is going to come in and say that all of these systems have to spend all this money and do that. It just, it's not going to happen.
And I guess my point was, we just generally don't go to DEQ when we want to hook somebody up, whether it's a small development or an individual.
Yeah, so Bob, are you saying we just tell them the 8-inch is required and call good?
Well, in my opinion, that would be to the district's best interest.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want to pay it, but in reality, the district doesn't want to pay for their subdivision.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
So, and as long as DEQ doesn't say you got to upgrade it anyway, then we're on. It's up to them if they want to do it.
Yeah, my history is that development usually pays for it itself so that the district doesn't have to burden those costs.
Correct. And so that is more or less what I discussed previously, and they pushed back to see if there's another opportunity for another option, which is what opened up me opening the dialogue with DEQ, and that's kind of how that started.
So I think we're just where we are. We now we have to wait, Kyle, till we get something from them, and then we can deal with it.
Well, as far as this development goes, they've changed quite a bit since that was all platted and approved. It looks like they've sold about at least a quarter or a third of the property to Jan, which is on this side of the creek, and that was part of that development. And that's what the development was approved for. Was 28 houses, and I just wonder how far they've gone as far as getting approval. They've got to stay 75 feet from the creek because that is a Class 1 creek, and I don't know. I don't see it. I don't understand them selling part of that to Chan. That's because it seems like the plat was set for 28 houses at that point, and it included the whole piece of property, and that whole piece of property came right to where Spruce easement is.
Well, they only have 25 ERs, so maybe that when they discovered that they couldn't do 28 houses, maybe that's why they sold the piece. I don't really know.
No, the economy went bad.
Well, they only had 25
That's their business, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the only thing is I hate to see DEQ get involved in an individual situation like this. Generally, the district looks at it and says we have the capacity and willingness to serve, or we don't.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're not involved with the county, and
Yeah, so I guess, Bob, is the system a pressure sewer? Is it a gravity sewer? What is it? Because when we reviewed it, I couldn't tell you, and I'm not confident that I truly know based on any of the information. So that's why DEQ got roped into this.
It's gravity, Kyle.
It is gravity.
If they go down to Spruce, it's gravity, but if they have to go to Perimeter Road to connect, there may be some pressure sewer involved. And it may be
Yeah.
up a hill.
And we do have, a lot of systems have individual residences that are down close to the
Yes.
lake and lined up above.
Right.
So they pump,
Yeah,
so their house into a gravity line.
Yes, that's
yeah,
correct.
We've got property have that too.
Yeah.
We do.
That may only be a 2-inch line.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've probably done all we can on this until Kyle hears back now. So, thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.